If I could go back in time and smack myself with this book for spending money on it, trust me, I would do that. Now, if you know me, you know that I have not explored the dark realms of this genre, which is dark romance. I don't know if you can call this dark romance. I had actually started making a reading vlog with this book, and I was a naive girl. I didn't know what I signed up for. I read almost 30 or 40% of the book while I was doing the reading vlog. And you know what? Yeah, it was getting dark, but then it reached a point where I was so disgusted that I just could not continue. But we'll start from the beginning. Now, a little bit context about this book. In this book, we're following Adeline. She goes by Addie. Addie is a 26-year-old writer, and the book starts with her finding out that she's inherited this house from her late grandmom, and her mom is not very keen on her deciding to go and live in that house because she thinks that she, as an Addie, needs to move on with her life, move ahead in life, and not go and stay at her dead grandmom's house. But Addie had a very sweet bond with her grandmom. She used to love her grandmom, so she thought that, this is a sign from the universe and she needs to go and live there. She needs to be close to her. That's just her way of showing love to the grandmom. And when she starts living there, she starts renovating the house a little bit, and she finds her great grandmom's journals there, and she starts to flip through them, read about it, and after every chapter you have a journal entry from the great grandmom as well. And then this is initially the chapter at the start of the book, and then this has alternating POV, so we get the guy's POV as well. His name is not revealed in the first, I guess, 30-40% of the book. So now, talking about the guy, it makes my blood boil. His first chapter that was there. So the chapters are named, the girl's chapters are named The Manipulator because she writes thriller novels, so she basically manipulates people's mind. And our guy here, his chapters are The Shadow. He's supposed to be this bad guy killer, so even though he is a criminal, but he is doing God's work and wiping out criminals from the world. So in his chapter, he's just come off after killing a child rapist. And he's just walking by and he passes the bookstore where Addie is supposedly having her book signing. When he just passes the bookstore, the monologue that is going inside his head, listen to this. I don't care about fiction books. I only read the ones that are going to teach me something, particularly about computer science and hacking. By now, there's nothing those books can teach me anymore. I've mastered and then surpassed it. Can you just see how wannabe that is? You're walking a bookstore and you make it a point to say, oh, I only read books about computer science and hacking. But those books also can't teach me anything anymore because he's apparently mastered everything and surpassed it. When I read this, I was just like, that's not the worst of it actually. Now, he still goes into the bookstore and sees Adeline, and Adeline is just starting to address the crowd. So she just says 3 words, which are, before we start, and listen to what this guy thinks. She says, before we start, then in his head he's thinking, fuck, her voice is pure smoke, the kind you really only hear in porn videos. I suck in my bottom lip, biting back a groan. Like, just try to imagine this scene, that a bookstore and this guy standing in the back and he's just, biting his lip and trying to hold back a groan. Like, can you imagine how funny and creepy that is? Whatever. Now, when he sees her, and after that he's thinking, and I know I'm about to do something bad. I know that I'm going to cross lines that I will never be able to come back from. But there's not an ounce of me that gives a fuck. Because I'm obsessed. I'm addicted. And I will gladly cross every single line if it means making this girl mine. If it means forcing her to be mine. I rest my case. This is the page where I should have left the book. This is page 29. This is the first chapter that we get from the guy. He has just come off from killing a child rapist. And he's saying here that he will cross every line to make this girl his, and even if that means forcing her to be mine. What the hell? But anyway, like any normal, sane person, I did not stop here. And I kept pushing through, thinking that, you know what, I'm going to give it a fair chance. After this, the story just picks up in a sense where this guy, he is a stalker, which is why his chapters are called The Shadow. And because he's addicted and obsessed with Adeline after seeing her for 5 seconds and hearing 3 words from her mouth, he starts breaking into her house where she's staying, and he keeps on leaving like roses, but the thorns of the roses are cut off because he's sweet like that. He doesn't want Adeline to get hurt after she finds out the roses that he's left for her after breaking into her house. So, what a sweet little guy. And then you get into this cat and mouse situation, literally written here on the book, Cat and Mouse Duet. There's a second book as well. He keeps on leaving these trails of roses in her house, and she tries to figure out what's happening. She calls the police, but the police doesn't take her seriously. And all the police reports, apparently, of course, he's a hacker, so he just goes into the department's database and clears off any records of her complaints. So anytime she calls and she's like, I've given so many complaints in, and the officers are like, what are you saying? There's nothing here. So, you know, he's cool like that. He's a cool guy. Then this situation just drags on for too long, and this guy, he becomes literally obsessed to a point where anytime she goes out to hang out with any other guy or she goes on a date, he gets so jealous that he starts texting her saying that if you go home with that guy, you're going to find his hands in your mailbox the next morning, and he follows through on that promise. So he's a stand-up guy as well. And he keeps on referring to Adeline as my girl, when she has no clue about his existence. She does not know that he exists. He's just like the most delusional character that I've ever read in my however many years of reading. This book literally romanticizes rape. Like, I don't know a more tender way to put it, but it is what it is. The writing is so surface level. It's very much telling you instead of showing it to you. So this guy, he's supposed to be this badass guy who kills bad guys, but in the writing, you don't feel that, like the way that he carries himself, all of that. No, it's all through dialogue. It's all through in his head that, you know, people are scared of me. Anytime I give any guy a glance or any person a glance, like they scurry off the other way. Like, it's all very much like telling you instead of showing you. So I felt like it was very surface level, even though, yeah, it's not some groundbreaking piece of literature, but it is a book. Like, if you want to keep the readers hooked, there needs to be some substance to the characters, because it is a very character and a plot driven book. So that I did not like. The writing as well, a lot of times it was just so cringy. There was a scene where the protagonist, the girl, she goes out to the club with her friend, her best friend Dea, I think her name was. Both of them are dancing, and you know, all of a sudden she feels like somebody has sneaked up on her from behind, and that guy, he starts dancing with her. They start flirting with each other, and in her head she's thinking, I'm such an anxious person that, you know, any social interaction sends me into hibernation, but I'm oddly good at flirting. Like, make that make sense. I don't understand that. If you have a level of social anxiety where you can't even stand a social interaction, that it sends you into hibernation, how are you just oddly good at flirting? So I feel like a lot of these scenes, you're trying to portray these characters in a certain sense, but it's not coming off that way. Because if the scene was left at her just trying to flirt with this guy and we moved on from that, yeah, okay, that would have been fine. But for her to go and try to make it a point that, you know, oh, I'm a socially awkward girl, but I'm good at flirting. So it was very inconsistent, the writing, as what the characters were trying to be. Yeah, it romanticizes rape and assault, as I said, not once, but at multiple accounts. I think at every point, though there's an interaction, there's a sexual interaction between the guy and the girl, it was always forced. And a lot of times in the book, it's sort of acknowledged as well. Like, the girl in her head, she's also thinking that, you know, you're forcing me to like do all of this. And the guy is also like, yeah, it's like not consensual. But they just move on from it. Like, if you're addressing it, you know, have him, I don't know how you would make that situation better. I was gonna say have him like apologize to her, but no. I don't know. At one point in the story, when Addie has apparently started like expecting him to show up and force her, and started to like sort of guilty enjoy it as well. In her head, she's thinking that if you would have told me that there would come a time where I would sleep with a man who doesn't respect my boundaries, has no sense of personal space, does not respect the word no, I would have said that you've lost your mind. But then she's like, yeah, he's all of those things, but he's also such an admirable man. You know, it's like even the author like doesn't half believe what is going on. Like, it just felt so inconsistent, and it didn't feel very holistic. I don't know, like, is this what dark romance is? Because I thought it would be more like, you know, people in mafia like at each other's throat and trying to kill each other, but then they have like this situation where they fall in love, but they also want to kill each other. Like, that is what I had in my head when I thought dark romance. Rape, abuse, assault, physical violence, that is not what I thought dark romance was. Like, did not even imagine it in the darkest place of my brain. How are people not seeing it? I went and I saw the rating on Goodreads for the book, and it is 3.9. That's the average rating. And around, I think, 9 or 10 lakh people have given it that rating. From the start, the characters just come off as such wannabe characters. Like, there's not one relationship in the book that I would sort of call genuine. Even Addie's relationship with her friend Dea, who she's supposed to know since high school, I think, even that comes off as so shallow and surface level, the way they talk to each other. Like, it's just, if I had a friend that I had known since, you know, when I was a kid in school, and I went and told them that, you know what, like, this guy is stalking me and he's forcing me to do things, I would not expect them to be like, oh no, bitch, like, what are you doing? I would expect them to like slap me and just be like, you know, like, go and report me somewhere, or report the guy, like, do something about it. That is what I felt about this book. I think when I started reading this book, I picked it up because I was like, I need to find a book that incites something in me. You know, I've just been in this weird slump where I am reading books, but it's not doing something for me. I'll give it to this book. It definitely did a lot of things to me. One being, it swore me off reading dark romance, because if this is what dark romance is, then I'm good. I don't want it. So anyway, glad to be done with this. I wanted to DNF it so bad, but I wanted to have my review after reading the entire thing, so I can be 100% sure that it sucks. Literally sucks. This also ends on a cliffhanger, and there's a second book, but no way in hell am I intrigued enough to pick up the second book. So gonna burn that book. That was it for this video. If you have read this and if you liked it, I would honestly not want to hear about it, because I hated it with all my heart. There is no way in hell that you can defend it, saying that, you know, it's just a piece of smut or a book that you can, you know, just shut your brain off and read. I don't believe that. I feel like anything that you put out in the world for people to buy, it leaves an impact on somebody. I cannot imagine kids reading this, boys at such a young age reading these kind of books. It just baffles me. If you enjoyed it book, good for you. I'm glad you found something you like, but I would not want to hear about that. I would like to stay far away from it. So thank you for coming along and hearing me just rant. And I wish I could say that I was not expecting this. I honestly was. I was more inclined to me not liking it when I even started it. But I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I do this to myself. I will be back with a better mood and a much better review. Something that I will actually rate, because this is not the book I want to be associated with. So you would not see me rating this anywhere. So hope you have a nice day ahead. I have ruined mine by talking about this first thing in the morning, but we'll get over it. And I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.